Hey everybody, I'm back down in my basement, and as you can see, I'm in front of my tankless water heater again. And I did a video about 1.5 years ago on how to clean this unit by doing the annual maintenance on it using a vinegar solution to clean the heat exchanger. I got a lot of comments and other questions on that video. So the purpose of this video is twofold. One is to answer some common issues and problems that people have from comments of my previous video and try to answer some of those and clarify some of that. The other is to demonstrate a revised cleaning technique that not only I believe will be more effective in cleaning this unit, but will also be effective in cleaning units across other models of Rheem units or other brands of tankless water heaters. So let's get started. Okay, so the one maintenance thing I want to get out of the way real quick, and the reason I'm doing it now is because it should happen before the flush starts. And that is to check on the cold water inlet, and again, this is kind of the Rheem style units. I've got this black plastic plug right here on the cold water inlet here. And so what they say to do is check this along with the, when you're doing your maintenance flush. So now that I have my cold water turned off, my main valves turned off, I should have no pressure or very little pressure right now on here. So this is the time to check this black thing. And what this is a filter. It filters out any major contaminants or particulates. So mine's on a little bit tight, so I'm going to get my pliers and just loosen it up a little bit. Shouldn't be on that tight, and then we can take it off by hand. Some water may come out here, so you might want to catch it with a bucket if you need to. I'm just under my utility sink, so I don't really care if a little bit of water comes out and gets a little bit of wet around here. It's no big deal. But you're just going to unscrew this. Just be ready to catch a little bit of water that comes out. And this is what we're looking at here. We're looking at this filter and we're seeing if there's any major debris in there. One of the other commonly asked questions is, can you run your cold water while you have your water heater bypassed? And the answer is yes. You just won't have any pressure on your hot water side, but you can run your cold water valve. So what I can do is go to another sink or go to my utility sink here and just rinse this off with the cold water and get this thing cleaned out. What I noticed is because I've got a good water softener, and if you have a whole house filtration system or a water softener, usually you won't have much debris in here. Those usually catch the big particulates that this would catch. But if you don't, if you're on well water and you have a lot of sediment in your well, and you don't have a whole house filter, this could be full of particulates and you want to clean this out, maybe even more often than every year. But just make sure your main valve is shut off so that there's no water pressure going into here, and then you can take this out. So that's the first maintenance item. Now let's move forward and I'm going to put this back in, clean this out, put this back in, and then we'll move on with our flush. Okay, the first go at this technique that I'm going to use here is info from a commenter who I'll flash up on the screen, and he got this info from a Rheem technician. And so again, the Rheem support just said unplug the unit and do your maintenance. What I did in my previous demonstration video is turn it off at the keypad and did my maintenance. What they're saying is, and I went over this video around 37-minute mark, between 37 and about 40-minute mark, where he describes the process. I went over it several times and made sure I got the steps right. Basically what his steps are is to set up your bucket, just like we talked about, just like in my previous video, getting the pump, the vinegar poured in, the bypass valves, the main valves turned off, the hoses connected, yada, yada, yada. That's on my main video, right? Or my first video. All that was correct. And the difference here, what he says to do is turn the pump on, plug the pump in, and then turn the power off on the controller, wait 10 seconds, turn the power back on the controller, wait 10 seconds, and then unplug the water heater. So let's try it. Okay, we'll plug the pump in. It's going. I hear the unit going. Okay. Now we'll turn the unit off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Turn it back on. And here's the problem with this, and this is why this technique specifically doesn't work on the Richmond Encore series. Maybe it does on other Rheem units. Again, I'm not the expert. I assume this other guy is. This will not allow you to turn on while the pump is flowing. It won't. So I can't turn it on at the key pot while the pump's flowing. My only thing is to unplug the pump, then I can turn it back on. So perhaps this works on other Rheem units, and that's why I'm offering it, but it does not work on this Richmond unit. That's why I'm going to use a modified technique that I know works on this unit, and so that's what I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so like I said, we're set up to do our maintenance right now. All I have to do is start the pump up, but you know, again, the key thing that we're going to do is we're not going to turn that off, and we're not going to unplug it. So the unit's bypassed from the water perspective, but all the gas and electrical is still connected and the unit is still on. I've also taken a reading with my little digital thermometer here of the vinegar solution in my bucket, and I got about 57 degrees. Now this is optional, you don't have to do this, I'm just doing this for you. And I'm just gonna see, okay, approximately 3.5, almost 4 gallons of vinegar at 57 degrees, because it's a bit cold in my basement during the winter here. How long will it take to be about, let's get it to maybe say 100, 110 degrees, the whole bucket. How long will that take? But I don't want to run the unit for any more than about 5 minutes, just, you know, at a time. So we'll see kind of after 5 minutes, how hot did the whole bucket of solution get? Because the nice thing about it is if we get that solution warmed up, and then we can just turn the unit off to where the burners are not firing anymore, and we can do our remaining cleaning for the rest of the hour. And hopefully it'll stay warm for a good part of that time. So let's get this thing set up here. All right, so what I'm gonna do, again, the unit's still on. You can still see the keypad is displaying something, and it's still plugged in. That's the gray cord right here. And my black cord is for my pump. So I'm just gonna simply plug my submersible pump in, and we'll just go ahead and get started. And you can see the pump is going. And now what I'm going to do, as we're kind of seeing what's happening here, let's just verify on our output side that we do have a good flow. And not only that, I can even dipping my finger and it's already warm. So the unit is running, and I'm already feeling our solution warming up. Okay, our 100 I achieved, I don't know if you saw this, but it's about 119.5 degrees, close to 120 degrees after our 5-minute mark. Now I'm going to go ahead and unplug our unit here. Let's go ahead and do that now. There it is. Just to verify, our keypad is dead and we are off, but our pump is still going and we're still doing our cleaning. All right, so now I'm just gonna let that run for another hour and hopefully effectively clean our heat exchanger. All right, one thing I also wanted to address here while we're waiting on the outcome here is one of the biggest questions I had seemed to be on the maintenance valves here, and some people didn't get them installed for some reason. So if you have a full-size wall-hung water heater unit, you absolutely need maintenance valves on this to do this flush on a yearly basis. You just do. I don't understand, some people have said that their plumber recommended not install them or didn't install them or whatever. I don't understand that. Some people have mentioned something about, well, having under sink units or something like that. If you have a little point of use water heater, and it has like maybe flexible hoses going into it, I can understand not needing maintenance valves like this on there, because you can just unhook the hoses and rehook your maintenance hoses on it. But if it's a fixed wall hung unit of this size, you have to have these. Now these are about $100, and I'll flash this up on the screen, these maintenance valves. There's no reason why the plumber who installs this unit initially shouldn't do this. $100, it saves labor, by the way. I had to do one sweat fitting to get from sweated 3/4 inch copper to the threaded fitting, and everything else is threaded and doped in order to, it's like a big union with built-in valves is what those maintenance valves are. Let's say you are a plumber and you don't want to pay for the $100 for those. Well, what's the alternative? Well, you could get 2 sets of kind of this situation. This isn't exactly, I'm just for demonstration purposes, but basically you would need some kind of like boiler drain hose bib where you can attach your hoses to, and then, you know, that's in line, and then a valve, right? So I mean, again, this is not exactly what I would do, but for maintenance purposes, I would do on the cold water side, valve going into the hose bib. You can see this valve, then hose bib, and then into the water heater, and then the reverse on the hot water side, hose bib, and then shutoff valve. But you know, buying all this stuff would cost about $40 and would be more work to do. So there's no reason why, if you're having this professionally installed or you're doing it yourself, you shouldn't just pay the $100, buy those maintenance valves, and install them that way. It's just a better setup. Several people commented on that, and that's my answer there, is to make sure you get those installed. And the only reason I bring this alternate thing up is not because I think you should do it, but if for some reason you can't retrofit those maintenance valves, like you can't move the unit, like maybe it's in the side of the wall or something, and you're forced to just cut open the pipes and do something like this, well then maybe you have to do that. But otherwise, if you're installing it brand new, get the maintenance valves and make sure they're put in, and if you're having a plumber do it, ask him about that and make sure he does that. Well guys, it's been just over an hour, just like in my previous video, and I just wanted to kind of compare what happened. Now, I'm confident in the fact that because we ran this with the unit on and we actually got it hot, we had to have gone through the heat exchanger. I mean, there's no question that we were going through just the bypass valve. We got the liquid hot, so it was going through the heating unit. Now, when I unplugged it during the process, after, like I said, we ran it for 5 minutes with everything on, and then I just unplugged the water heater just in the middle, and then kept going for another hour. How do I know that it kept going through the heat exchanger? Well, my confidence is high because after about 30 minutes, I kept, or different intervals, I kept dipping my finger in. Even now, it's still warm. So it tells me that it's probably still getting latent heat from the heat exchanger, even during that hour, because it was running, previously. So I've got to think that the reason it's still hot and not immediately cold after an hour is because it's still running through the heat exchanger even after I unplug the unit. So I have a fair amount of confidence in this. But what I'm not super happy about is it looks about the same. I mean, if you compare my video before, I know it looks dark. I don't know if I can get more light on this, but if you compare my last video at the end with this video at the end, the solution looks about the same, I'll be honest with you. One thing I didn't do last time, which someone asked me to do in the comments, is because it's in this bucket, it looks gray, but it really is kind of probably has a blue-green color. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour it into a jar so that you can see what it looks like outside of this orange bucket that's obviously tinting the color. So let's take a look. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look a ton big, but this is about what it was when last time I did my maintenance, and it has a little bit of a blue-green color to it, which you would expect from kind of that buildup. But it doesn't look super dirty. But yeah, that's the difference there. It certainly does look murkier inside the bucket. The bucket I could see much more clearly, but when you take it out, it's not super dark, but it definitely does have a little bit of a bluish green color to it. So anyway, I guess that's really it for this video. I don't know, to be honest with you, if this did any better than the way I showed in my first video. So I showed you a couple things. I showed you a new technique that was from a Rheem technician. Did not quite work on this particular unit here, but maybe that will help. Maybe it'll work on your unit. Then I showed you that second technique, which I believe did work very well in this unit. I mean, I know it worked with regard to the fact that we got a warm fluid, consistently warm fluid, which means we were definitely going through the heat exchanger. So I know we weren't just going through the bypass valve, but I can't conclusively say that it cleaned any better than in my previous video. But hopefully, maybe for your brand or model of unit, this technique worked better or more effectively than other videos that you've seen. Yeah, that's my conclusion. You know, I'll probably keep doing it like this just because I think it's a good idea. But like I said, I don't know if that was that much more effective. But hopefully you learned something, and I know I learned a little bit. So I appreciate you watching, and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Take care. We'll see you next time.